consequences of Russian occupation in Chernobyl. At 3 p.m., we'll have Alexander Matuzyanek with us. Colonel Matuzyanek is the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, and he will share with us the latest information about current operational information on the front line by 3 p.m. And right now with us we have Dmytro Zhyvytskyi online with us, head of Sumy Oblast Military Administration. Good afternoon, Dmytro. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear us? Good afternoon. Yes, I can hear you. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Could you please tell us what's happening in Sumy Oblast? And let us talk a bit about the consequences of the Russian aggression in Sumy Oblast. What are those consequences? Could you please tell us? Sumy Oblast continues to be getting back to normal after our armed forces, jointly with territorial defense and local, say, guerrilla fighters, pushed Russians away from Sumy Oblast. Currently, we have been restoring the everyday life in our oblast, restoring infrastructure, damaged facilities, water supply, heating supply, natural gas supply, electricity supply. About 500 users are still without electricity supply, but we have restored most of it. We had about 25,000 users, consumers who did not have electricity supply. But now there is more serious work to do about restoring those substations which have been bombed, which have been damaged by bombs. We have been restoring our roads, demining our oblast. The territory of our oblast has been seriously mined with mines and sensitive ropes and wires and everything. We prohibited people from entering forests and going through field roads. They should only go through checked roads. We have started planting seeds actively. We work with farmers to plant our black soil, the most productive worldwide, to plant it as much as possible, to have harvest this year, to have profits, to have taxes. We invite people to return to the region, especially those people able to work. All those able to work should work to restore our infrastructure in the oblast, to restore our economy. Jointly with the military, we are planning all necessary steps to defend the oblast, to defend the state and protect the state border, to prevent the enemy from entering, because before that, for a month and a half, they would enter and exit whenever they want, wherever they want. Now, definitely, we will not have this situation anymore. Our joint task with the military, with territorial defense, with all law enforcement agencies is to maintain law and order and security at the state border and defense of our region. We have been creating engineering fortifications. These activities are going in a very active way. I would like to thank all those businessmen, all those companies providing materials and personnel and equipment. Now everybody has joint efforts, all as one, working on all that. And those now we have all joined our efforts to live in peaceful Sumy Oblast, in peaceful Ukraine, to protect our people against that Russian aggression, that terrorist aggression, that brutal one, and which makes no sense. Dmytro, do people already return to Sumy Oblast, to their homes? Yes, people have been actively coming back, even when moving around our towns and villages in the nighttime. I see more and more windows with lights in them, so there are more people, more cars in the streets. Our public transportation has been operating. We have been restoring the public transportation routes between towns and villages in Sumy Oblast, as well as interregional transportation, so that people would be able to return to our region and to have business trips to our oblast. We have been restoring operations of our production companies, Ukrainian Railways, Ukrzaliznytsia. By the way, I would like to use this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Infrastructure and the top management of Ukrainian Railways. We speak with them every day. We renew the operations of trains as well as suburban trains, commuter trains people used to get to their offices. Now, starting today, Zhyvytskyi Express will restore its operation. This is a modern train we launched with Ukrainian Railways just before the new year, but since the beginning of this aggression, the whole railway operations in the region have stopped. Now, between Vrozhba and Kharkiv, we restore the operation of that Zhyvytskyi Express. This is a modern Ukrainian train manufactured due to President's program, big construction launched by the President. It was made in Kyiv train factory, and we launched trains to Konotop, Shostka, Sumy, Akhtirka, Kurykyivka, Lebedin, Romny, and other villages and towns. They will all be connected via railway to Kharkiv Oblast. Unfortunately, it's still difficult to restore railway connection to the city of Kyiv via Konotop, but we have been working on that jointly with the railway people. Dmytro, have there already been any estimates of losses because of that aggression? Well, according to very rough estimates, very approximate ones, the damage in destroyed infrastructure, destroyed because of bombing, of shelling, of rocket strikes, amounts to about 10 billion Ukrainian hryvnias. 10 billion hryvnias. This is huge money. It's still impossible to count all the losses in the economy because businesses stopped operating. They haven't received profits. We haven't received taxes. Yesterday we had a big meeting with old heads of territorial communities. For the first time during all this time, we met in person, not over Skype, not over telephone. We expected it to continue for 2 weeks, but we talked for 2 hours, but we talked for 5 hours, discussing a lot of problems. There are many issues in education, and culture, and healthcare, and the whole sectors financed from state budget, restoration of administrative centers, operations, national police, drafting to the military, territorial defense. We still have a lot of issues to be resolved because of that military aggression. And there will be changes. There are changes to our budget legislation, which are to help businesses, but unfortunately territorial communities lose money because of that, and we understand that in several months there may be problems with paying salaries and wages to those financed from public budget. So we have to relaunch the economy, to relaunch businesses operations as soon as possible, to get as much taxes as possible to maintain those sectors financed from the public budgets, because, you know, we have roughly estimated those losses because of areas which have not been planted with seeds along the border with the aggressor. Just profits of the agrarian companies that they have not received will amount to more than 3 billion hryvnias, 3 billion, and also there will be unpaid taxes and all that. And it's like in 2014, starting from 2014, Sumy Oblast has lost a lot because we have lost Russian markets, and now because of this military aggression, and since we are a border oblast and companies have been destroyed, we continue losing financially. Dmytro, yesterday in our studio we had the mayor of the town of Bucha, and he told us about terrible losses among innocent civilians. I cannot but ask you what the situation in Sumy Oblast at the moment, whether many people have suffered because of that aggression. A lot of people have suffered. If we mention wounded people, people who lost their homes, whose homes have been damaged or destroyed, as well as people who died, there are thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people who have either had to change their place of residence, or their property has been destroyed, or their relatives and near ones have died or have been wounded. We have more than 100 innocent civilians who died in our oblast. Unfortunately, those numbers have been increasing every day because we continue finding dead bodies, and there are many people missing. There are people who have been captured by the enemy, and there is our team of negotiators working every day to get them either exchanged or released, because now there are many people about whom we just don't know anything. We have found some cars shooted on the roads in forests, and nobody knows for sure what happened to those people from those cars. There are many wounded people in hospitals. There are wounded people in neighboring oblasts, in hospitals, in military hospitals there. And again, there has been a very serious mental trauma for those people who survived that occupation. There were convoys with thousands of Russian vehicles passing their towns and villages, shooting around, shooting at innocent civilians, shooting even at older people and children. People did not stay at their homes. They spent nights somewhere in swamps. They were hiding somewhere in agricultural companies and some fodder pits, because everything was shelled from tanks, from grenade launchers, from machine guns, from assault rifles. It was terror. It was terrible what was done by Russians in our region. In the same way, we have found many people with their hands tied up, with some traces of torture shooted in their heads. These are terrible things. Nobody would never expect that in the 21st century here in Europe we will see such things. And we clearly understand that Sumy Oblast is now on the edge, not just between Ukraine and the aggressor country, but this is some sort of a tectonic edge between civilization and some wild horde. So our joint task is to prevent those wild tribes from winning, from imposing their rules on us. We are peaceful people, hardworking people, kind people. Ukrainians have always been like that, but imperialist Russia has been dreaming for more than 500 years, and it's still dreaming to get Ukraine under its rule. And those 30 years of our independence, they could not see it quietly. They were dreaming of getting us, taking us quickly, but they have realized that our spirit, high spirit, and our desire to be independent and to live in a democratic country with rules and laws where humans are the highest value. They don't understand that this is the highest energy and strength of our people, which is much stronger than the energy of their tanks and artillery. Dmytro, we have all seen heroic resistance in Akhtirka, resistance against the aggressor. What's the situation in the city of Akhtirka now? We saw terrible destruction there about infrastructure as well as residential houses. What's the situation in Akhtirka at the moment? The situation in Akhtirka is more or less stable. Now it's being brought into order. The government has allocated 250 million hryvnias for first priority works to restore infrastructure in the region. In Akhtirka, in Trostanets, in Baromля, in Krasnopilya, in villages and towns in Konotop district. Those are areas where we saw the highest degree of damage and the highest presence of Russian troops and occupation of those territories. Roads have been destroyed, and first of all, that money will be spent to restore critical infrastructure, to restore water supply, to restore sewage and heating supply, new windows, new roofs in buildings, whatever can be quickly restored, repaired, and made for use again. There are completely damaged buildings or buildings which cannot be restored quickly, where we need some capital construction, and that will be the second stage when the situation will get a bit easier in our country. But whatever can be restored quickly, we will definitely restore it quickly. Dear journalists, you can ask your questions, if any. Do you have any questions? Please speak into the microphone.
He says more than 100 of people died, of citizens died in the region, and I want to know if there was sexual abuse.
Ви чули, пане Дмитро? Питання. Так, почув питання.
Yes, I have heard your question. We don't have confirmed cases in our region. There have been no complaints to the national police and other law enforcement agencies. No complaints received about sexual violence in the oblast. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, then thank you, Dmytro, for joining us. There are no more questions in our studio. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for finding time speaking with us and providing this very important information. Thank you, thank you. Please stay with us. Our next briefing will be at 2 p.m. and there we will discuss the situation in Chernobyl, so please stay with us.